Hello and welcome to the round so far, brought to you by Amy. I'm Harley Beveridge. This is Kane. Kane, we're at the beautiful Adelaide Oval for Gather Round. It's been a pretty fun week so far.
Yeah, it's been a great week so far. We've still 3 games to come tomorrow. We had a couple of pretty good ones tonight.
We certainly did. We had a game full of controversy earlier today. It was Carlton against Freo, where the Blues won by 10 points, but it was as a result of this late incident. Freo were convinced that was touched. Cottrell went back, put the Blues in front, but then a dissent free kick moments later made it a double goal.
Which we'll look at in a second. So Cottrell, there you go. He keeps them in touch there, and then we're seeing the Jordan Clark one behind the goals in a second. So there's a free kick there. We're all thinking, what is going on here? The ball had gone back to the centre bounce with 40 seconds to go. The Blues leading by 4 points. There's a free kick to Kennedy there, and we're going, what's happened? Has someone decked someone off the ball? But you get the vision that it was a dissent free kick. Now, something that Jordan Clark has said as a result of this, because Fremantle were convinced it was touched. It wasn't touched there, because Fife pushed the ball into Hewitt's foot. You can see the flicker of Aisha's hair. That's a mark. I mean, we're paying that a mark in almost every instance in this game. We always have. We're not sure what Jordan Clark has said, but it must have been something pretty vicious, because they've allowed that dissent rule to be lapsed all year. They cracked down on it a year or so ago. They haven't done that this year, so it must have been something pretty vicious, and you'd love clarification from the AFL as to what was said.
Well, let's have a look at the behind the goals vision of the incident. You can see Jordan Clark, we're about to highlight him right as Matt Cottrell puts Carlton in front. I want you to look at Brandon Walker as well, just to the left of this. Basically, as soon as Jordan Clark says what he says, he just sticks his hands up. I reckon that's an indication that it must have been something worthy of a free kick.
Had to be a swear word, had to be personal. You think something in that moment for that free kick to be paid when they've let it go all year. So you would love an official from the AFL, be it a spokesperson from the umpiring department, be it Laura Kane, just to clarify. Don't have to tell us exactly what was said, because obviously it was pretty colourful, but why that was paid a dissent free kick, when I've seen players really get up in the face of umpires, point at umpires, be really demonstrative, and that not being paid for dissent. So it was unusual. In the end, the Blues are probably going to win anyway. They're 4 points up with 40 seconds to go. That wasn't the game. Fremantle had their opportunities, which we'll get into now.
Well, Freo were in command of this game halfway through the final term until a pretty dramatic last 15 minutes. 6 goals kicked in the final 15 minutes, and most of the attacking was done at Carlton's end.
And you can see the Carlton in close wins again. So 3 by 10 points or under, of course, a blowout against North Melbourne. Everyone's going to do that against North Melbourne, or the good sides will. But it was a dour game. I thought the Fremantle defended really well. They had ascendancy from the stoppages. They dominated stoppage, actually. But the concern, if you are a Dockers fan, is how impotent their forward line looks. Like, a miss was beaten badly. Tracy and Taberner aren't the answer. So I guess the hope for them would be when Darcy comes back, Jackson's going to be the one that starts the fire for them forward and can provide a contest and kick them 30 goals for the year. But the problem with that is you take Jackson out of the ruck, where he's been almost the most dominant ruckman for the year. So they've got some levers to pull when fitness comes back into it with Darcy, but at the moment there's nothing threatening forward of the ball. Walters, as well as a small forward, is providing little, and Fife, when he goes forward, can't kick more than 40 metres anymore, unfortunately.
That forward line is going to be an interesting watch, as you mentioned, with Luke Jackson potentially going forward when Sean Darcy comes back into the side over the next fortnight or so. An interesting moment as well in the third term with Lockie Fogarty. Do you reckon he's getting match review trouble here? I think he probably is, because he takes his eyes off the ball, but it seemed from where I was sitting that it was going to be a genuine contest right until that moment.
Yeah, no, he's in trouble. I think he's in trouble. So we'll get a better look at it from the other angle. Watch his eyes. So it's ball, and then it's Fife, and then it's vicious. It looks pretty vicious. Like, the contact is solid. I think he just glazes sort of the shoulder-throat reason, which saved Fife from probably getting a concussion. 50-metre penalty, and I haven't looked at the matrix in terms of force and intentional or careless, probably careless, but I'll be surprised if he doesn't miss 2 or 3 weeks for that.
It's important to note as well, Fife grabbed it. His throat under the contact laws is deemed as high contact, so likely looking at a high contact charge there for Lockie Fogarty. All right, let's get to the Saturday night game, because it was pretty dramatic as well. Geelong just seeing off the Western Bulldogs by 4 points. Again, they look like they're in command of this game until the last couple of minutes.
They'd be absolutely kicking themselves, the Western Bulldogs. They dominated this last quarter of footy. 17-7 clearances, 15-10 inside 50s, playing against a Geelong side with 7 players above the age of 30, off a 5-day break when they played a delayed game on Easter Monday in the wet MCG. If we're going to take the Western Bulldogs seriously as a genuine finals threat, now remembering they've said they believe they've got a top 4 list and they've reviewed it for that reason, they've changed all the assistant coaches around them, and you don't win this game when you've got opportunities to do that, then that's a disappointing win. And look, They're not a top 4 side from what we've seen tonight if they can't knock off Geelong for the reasons I mentioned. Are they on the cusp of finals? Potentially, but they're still pretty reliant on their stars, and there was one who really came to play today.
Yeah, certainly was in Jeremy Cameron. They did a couple of really interesting positional things, the Cats, in terms of Cameron started on the wing. He got 27 disposals, 8 marks, kicked a couple of goals. Brian Myers pushed deep forward as well, but also went up higher on the ground. It was interesting how they used them.
Yeah, so I thought it was advantage Chris got from the coach's box. And interestingly, Geelong have won 7 out of their last 8 against the Western Bulldogs. So they've clearly got the wood. Well, Chris Scott does over Luke Beveridge. And this is part of the reason. So Myers started as a half forward, and the Western Bulldogs dropped off him to protect against Geelong's pretty formidable forward line. But the problem with doing that, you allow Myers to play as an extra midfielder with no one on him. And we know he's one of the best kicks inside forward 50. So you get this, and you can't stop that. So I just thought the Western Bulldogs allowed that to go on too long. He had 11 in the first quarter. He had 8 score involvements for the night. And then Cameron went to the wing.
Yeah.
And he was the one, like Geelong looked out on their feet for the reasons that I mentioned, their age and the lack of the break that they've had in recovery. But Cameron was covering the ground so well, had a stack of the footy, kicked inaccurately, 2-4 for the night, but he was Geelong's best player and kept them in it.
20 score involvements between Myers and Cameron across the course of the night. You mentioned there was a star for the Western Bulldogs. He's our Saturday star. It is Tom Liberatore. 35 disposals, 19 clearances, as well as 10 score involvements, a goal and 9 tackles. He was so dominant out of the midfield.
It's as good a game as you're going to see all year. Like, for a genuine midfielder, this is extraordinary numbers. Look at it. He did absolutely everything. And when they were challenged, he was the one that kept them in it. So the Western Bulldogs never let this game get out of hand. It appeared that they would. Cats kicked 3 consecutively in the third quarter, but the Western Bulldogs were able to answer it. It's just such a well-rounded game, defensively, offensively. Kicked a goal here, stoppage goal there at a crucial moment. Look at the score, look at the time of the game. He's enormous, and he's been doing this for so long. And he really has, I'm glad, got the recognition that he deserves over the last 3 to 4 years. I think signed a contract extension during the week to take him to a 15th or 16th season, which is amazing. I guess they just need the next ones to come with him. So it was Bontempelli, it was Libba, it was English. After that, with no McRae out of favour and as a sub tonight, there is a bit of a void underneath the 2 veterans, Bontempelli and Libba.
Well, one man they'll help will step into that void is Riley Sanders, but unfortunately he leads our Amy Clangers tonight. Who covers Clangers? Amy does. Have a look at this, Kane. He runs about 30 metres, takes 2 bounces, and the issue is he's going the complete
Look at Ed
wrong
Richards,
way.
mate, you're going the wrong way. This is the best batch of clangers we've had for a long time. Maybe in my whole time of doing this show. Look at this, there's McGovern getting the hit with Campbell there, and he's lost a couple of teeth. He takes the bottom teeth out. I'm sure he had the mouth guard in the top teeth. They're the bottom ones. Gives them to the trainer. He says, mate, put that in some milk and we'll deal with it after the game.
And how's this? This has happened twice in 2 nights now. The Channel 7 commentary team set up right next to the banners, and they've been inundated with smoke. An absolute haze going over there.
They're in all sorts. Nothing worse than, let me tell you, as a former fireman, Riley, nothing worse than getting smoke in the face without a mask on, and unfortunately, that's what happened to the crew 2 nights in a row. So I don't know, next year they may set up in a different position, or just get rid of the fireworks.
All right, let's get to Friday night footy, where Port Adelaide got over the line against Essendon, thanks in large part to their captain, Connor Rozee. He was magnificent. 36 disposals, 8 score involvements, 3 goals. He led the way.
I reckon he humiliated them. Now, that's a strong word, but when we watch some of these clips, look at his ability to break tackles, to look at the opponent coming to try and tackle him and say, no, not today. This is as good a game as I've seen him play. As King Hinkley said, so look at that. Can't tackle me, I'm going to handball the ball over my head. I'm going to get the ball here, I'm going to dance once around you, I'm going to dance around you, and then I'm going to dance around you. He broke 4 tackles on the night, according to Champion Data. Horn Francis broke 4 as well. Now, team average per team is 7 a game. So 8 between those. You see another example there. Hobbs, no match for him. So I thought it was a moment for him as captain to say, okay, I'm the man. Now I'm the leader of this group. I've got number 1 on my back, and he should be feeling pretty confident, as should the club, that they've made absolutely the right decision as to who's going to lead this club for the next 8 or 9 years.
I got the sense they really set themselves out of the middle for this one. Essendon ranked number 1 in the league for centre clearances before this game, number 2 for stoppage scores. But as you mentioned, it was that trio in terms of Horn Francis, Butters and Rozee that just was so dominant.
Yeah, so what I want you to watch here is their ability to own the outside. They push their opponents into the contest, so that gives you the whole of the outside, and Essendon would not wake up. Look, push Perkins in from Horn Francis, we'll own the outside. They did it all night. 19-6 centre bounce clearances. They kicked 4 goals to 1. And this midfield trio, I think that's the story of the night. And we've spoken about this for 12 months. To see it all come together on the night, and they're not all going to play well at once, but they all bob up and have their moments. Often one of them is on the bench, so they always come on with fresh legs. So Butters and Rosie on the outside once again, and their ability to score and inflict damage. And as I said, Rosie humiliated the Bombers, and I thought after quarter time, Port Adelaide kicked 6-1 in the second quarter. Essendon would be incredibly disappointed with their effort.
Well, they're 2-2 now, the Bombers, and they've got a tough stretch coming up. So the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium on Friday night. Then they've got Adelaide back here at the Adelaide Oval in a fortnight, and it finishes with Collingwood on Anzac Day. Can they play finals?
No,
or do you think it's...
no, that's done. They'll be competitive against sides like the Saints last week, who had probably 6 or 7 of their best players out, and they'll be in games like they were for a quarter and a half. But we cannot yet trust Essendon, and there's an issue in a whole area of their game with no Peter Wright. They went with a small forward line. They didn't look threatening at all, and behind the ball, I thought Mackay did a really good job on Charlie Dixon, but they were in all sorts because of the midfield domination. So, I mean, they look to me to be a bottom 6 side at this stage. Early days, of course.
The win for Port Adelaide has been blighted, though, by an alleged homophobic slur made by Jeremy Finlayson towards an Essendon player. Now, Finlayson has come out and admitted that he did make the slur, and that he told Port Adelaide officials at three-quarter time the AFL Integrity Unit is now assessing this incident, and they'll make comment on it further later in the week. Let's get to Thursday night footy, where Melbourne started gather around with a big win over Adelaide. I thought this was a really brave win, given 2 games in Adelaide, a 5-day break. But Harrison Petty forward of the ball was really strong across the course of the night. There's no wonder why the Crows went after him so hard last year.
Yeah, definitely, and probably no wonder why Melbourne were pretty keen to hang on to him. Now, there's the record, 7-0 since round 10, and without 6-6, so 50-50 without him, and they don't lose when he plays. That's a pretty good record. Now, he didn't have a big night. I don't think a big night. Like, you look at his numbers, 10 touches, 5 marks, 5 score involvements, was inaccurate. Could have been a big night, kicked 1-3. But that just looks to be a good setup. Van Rooyen, it hasn't all come together for him yet, but just stick with him because he's got some attributes that you're going to love in a long time. So he's going to be the man down there if they can hold on to Petty, which I doubt they will. So they've got to maximise him for as long as they've got him. And then you got Fritsch, who was quiet in the first half, turned it on in the third quarter. He's a star. And then Pickett and Chandler and these players who have improved so much right across their list. They've got 4 or 5 players, Sparrow, Chandler, that improved. Neil Bullen we speak about a lot. Rivers we speak about. Their improvement year on year has just been enormous, and they're in a great spot. Their game's in good order. 4
straight wins now for the Dees. 4 straight losses, though, for Adelaide. Their coach, Matthew Nicks, speaking after the game about what's going wrong.
Oh, just an incredible frustration amongst all of us. We get glimpses of who we know we can be, and then we have periods of time where we look so far off. We've got to look at our team from a selection point of view and get guys in that are going to be able to play the way we play. Okay, it's individuals who know their form's not where it needs to be. So they're going to put their head down, they're going to go to work, and they're going to find that form, that belief in themselves and that confidence so we can play our footy.
I found that last comment kind of interesting in the sense that he said they've got to find players that can come in from a selection point of view, but they made 5 changes for this game. Like, I wonder how many more levers he can pull.
None. There's no more levers to come. There's the odd sort of fringish player playing Sanford, but that's not going to make a difference. He did hit the nail on the head with they've got key players out of form, but their game style, what has happened to their game style? So you don't lose your talent. High-scoring team last year, one of the most watchable teams, brought great effort, got after the opposition, turned the footy over, and then went into an open, dangerous forward line. They are moving the ball so slow. They're playing boring, slow. There's no dare or courage with their ball movement, and there's no reason. That's the reason their forwards can't get a hold of it. I look at the midfield, and at times there's Laird, Crouch, and Berry in it late in the game. I'm like, they're 3 of the identical players. So I think Matthew Nicks has to take some responsibility as well, and it started with Tom Stewart on a Friday night against Geelong when he took 10 intercept marks. Since then, they've had a lot of trouble with key defenders. Pearce has got a hold of them. Lever and May got a hold of them again. They haven't been able to defend the intercept mark. Their midfield is boring, and their ball movement is slow and wide and easy to defend against. So, as I said last week, they've been the most disappointing team this year, and they're at risk with their draw coming up.
Yeah.
Have been a big story, and the pressure's going to start to build if they can't turn it around pretty quickly.
Yeah, North Melbourne next week, but then some really difficult games coming up for the Crows. Cozzy Pickett offered a one-match ban by the match review for this bump on Jake's Liga, where he leaves the field. Now, he's done this, I reckon, 3 times in the last 12 months. We're going to see some more examples of it. Does he have an issue with this? Because leaving the field is a big no-no. We know that. He's done it numerous times over the last 12 months.
He's definitely got an issue, and the club's actually aware of it. I've asked Alan Richardson on radio, the football boss, and he said, look, yep, he's got an issue. We've addressed it with him. He needs to address it. So to have that after he's already missed some games through suspension, which he received in the finals last year, is a concern. You love him to get after the opposition, but he's got to stop jumping and leaving his feet. Now, I know he jumped to smother the ball, but then he's turned his body and got him high. So, it's something that they've addressed, but they need to address again because he's too good not to be playing for them and too important.
And a big game for them as well next Thursday night against the Lions. Let's get to Mount Barker now, where the Swans were given a big scare by the winless Eagles. They were 5 points down at half-time. They kicked 9 goals to 4 after the break, though, to get the game back on their terms.
Yeah, so let's give the West Coast some credit, because I said last week that games against them are over at half-time. The game's not over at half-time. Big win against a great opposition. Now, that's a small win you got to take. I thought they were really strong in the air. They dominated contested marks. They had some crucial contest wins, and all of a sudden there is a reason not to turn their games off at half-time. Now, still, the Swans were electric, and the Eagles couldn't defend for long enough, and the game opened up after half-time, and in the end, the result was never going to be in doubt. But I did see something for the first time with the West Coast Eagles, and maybe it was their first-year player, the sensation, who may already be their best player.
And let's get to that. The moment now is, of course, Harley Reed's first goal at AFL level. This is what he's all about. Collecting the ball, breaking a tackle, snapping it around the body. He's such a dangerous forward-half player.
Yeah, you saw or you heard the comparison between him and Dustin Martin prior to when he was drafted, and you can see it in these clips. So that low to the ground, the ability to be composed when you are confronted with physical pressure and absorb that, and then distribute the ball to a teammate in stride. We saw that today. So here's some examples of that. So welcome the tackle, sidestep, and this is like an 18, 19-year-old who's doing this. Can you imagine what it's going to be when he's 24, 25? So I did love the fact, and we saw it when he kicked his first goal, that he grabbed the Guernsey as well. You know, that'll be front page of the West Australian tomorrow, and that'll give a lot of heart to the West Coast fans who may dread the day that he would head home, like a Chris Jardine head back to Victoria, but we haven't seen any signs of that, and he appears to be really enjoying his footy. 18
disposals at 83% efficiency today, 7 tackles, 6 score involvements, and 4 clearances. This is the type of player he's going to be in the sense of a forward-half player. I know they've flirted with playing him off half-back a couple of times. He needs to stay forward of the ball. I know it's difficult in a struggling team sometimes to play forward of the ball, but he's such an impressive player when he gets the ball on a game.
He's not
his
playing
terms.
half-back. He's too good to be playing half-back. We've seen that, as I said. He's already their best player. He's going to play midfield. They'll need to look after him throughout the year. It's going to be a long year for him, but they'll be aware of that.
All right, let's get to Norwood Oval on Friday afternoon, where Brisbane absolutely thrashed a real hapless North Melbourne side. You had a feeling that Joe Danaher and Eric Hipwood, this was the game where they were going to fill their boots, and they certainly did. They kicked 8 goals between them.
Yeah, so last week I said, well, probably time for Hipwood to pay the price at selection, but maybe it's North, so they keep him in there for 1 week, and they'd be happy they did. He started really shakily, was double grabbing the marks that he should take, and missed a couple of shots that he would have liked to kick, but got better as the game went on. But this North Melbourne back 6, like that's Aiden Call there, good luck. It's as bad a back 6 as we've seen for probably 10 years in the game. So there's no answers there. That's Darcy Tucker trying to defend. At times it's Dawson. Comben went back there, and you've got to persist with him. He's something to like about Charlie Comben, and he at least has a crack, and he'll make some mistakes and he'll learn, but they have no other options. Pink got dropped, so reasonably depressing, I reckon, if you're a North fan, just when you're considering, okay, we would have not expected to improve dramatically, but we would have expected to improve, and it's hard to find any areas that North have improved from 12 months ago.
I feel like there's a growing sense of restlessness amongst the supporter base as
well.
Because you want to see moments, like West Coast today saw moments from guys like Harley Reed and through that first half. They haven't delivered any of that so far this season, so I think that's what's frustrating.
And I thought the midfield would be really dominant at times with the talent that they've gone in there, but that hasn't been the case, and they've let that back six be hung out to dry, and that's always going to be pretty painful.
There's a lot of speculation surrounding Brisbane throughout the week and rumours of unrest among the playing group. This victory, their first of the season. Chris Fagan spoke about that after the game.
Our players showed their togetherness today and their energy and their brotherhood, which has been a real big part of our trademark at the club since I've been there, and we were very determined today to show the footy world that we are a united group. Never in doubt, but sometimes you just got to show it so that people who want to talk about those things maybe stop.
Gather round's been fantastic so far, but let's head to the rest of the round because we've got 3 more games in 3 different locations. Gold Coast take on the Giants at Adelaide Hills. Richmond and St Kilda go to Norwood Oval, and then we finish here tomorrow night. Collingwood against Hawthorn at the Adelaide Oval to finish Gather round for another year. That's where we find our Kane's question for this week as well. Luca wants to know, how will the Pies deal with Finn McGuinness to Nick Dacos this time around?
Yeah, I'm not certain it's going to happen, but if it does, I think they'll just let him play. I mean, the problem for Finn McGuinness, the finisher, as I like to call him, my man, is that Nick Dacos can play so many positions. He can start at half back. Is he going to go with him there? If he goes with him there, he'll go centre bounce. And like we saw last year when Finn McGuinness got on top of him, he went forward. So that's going to really disrupt the setup for the Hawks. Someone's going to have to go out of centre bounce, going to have to rotate positions. So Collingwood will be really clever in the way that they position Nick.
An off-the-cuff one for you, but you were a tagger for large parts of your career. How would you deal with Nick Dacos?
I just wouldn't let him out of my sight, but I'd have no hope at trying to stop him.
Love that from you, Kane. Gather round's been fantastic so far. For all of the latest Gather round news, keep clicking back to afl.com.au and the AFL Live official app.